What up, friends? I need this microphone. Yeah, this is, so if you're joining me on YouTube, which you are, this is Periscope. My friends pop in on Periscope to hang with us while we shoot this live. Does this place look different? It is different. This is Budo MMA, martial arts, fitness, Budo Canada. It is at 38C Apex Road in North York, Ontario. And at our buddy Stu's place, his art gallery, they're doing a little build there for a couple of days. So my friend Ivan, who runs this beautiful gym, outside the door behind you, there is a beautiful fucking gym. You know, ring and a cage and bags and jiu-jitsu and boxing. It's a great gym. And he said, come in and hang out in my office and shoot here. And so we are. I also want to thank my friends from Fierce Supply. We're going to be doing some more stuff with them. Maybe we'll do stuff with them heading down to Detroit in a couple of weeks. I don't know. We'll chat. They're great people. Please follow them on Instagram, at Fierce Supply. Also, I'm at Robin Black on Instagram. Robin Black MMA, sorry. So, yeah. The greatest, most fun pleasure of having a YouTube channel is talking about whatever you want. 450 odd people have joined since we left for New York. It's 3 weeks ago now, because I went down for the week. Bisping, GSP, Thug Rose, TJ, insane week. Did a little wrap up, had some coffee and chatted about it, and then I got on a plane to China, where I commentated between 900 and 1,000 martial arts performances from all over the world in 3 days. We would do a 5-hour block of non-stop commentary, and then a little lunch break, and then another 5-hour block in the evening. It was glorious. If you check my Instagram, I also ate brains and all kinds of weird shit. But I loved it. China was wonderful. And that brings me to this. So water was the open-ended, let's talk about martial arts themselves. Let's talk about how quickly martial arts globally changes. There's a lot of things going on. First of all, this is my personal YouTube page. I also am thrilled to do coverage for TSN, tsn.ca/UFC. See some official stuff there at UFC events and stuff. I do stuff for the IWUF, International Wushu Federation. I've got to do the UFC.com, brings me in to do some stuff. And when I do those, it is super cool and I'm proud to do them. The thing about this one is, it's mine. Me, my buddy Mark, and we have a couple other of our crew, and we literally do whatever we want. So we're not bound by these things. You have to talk this way, or you can't say this, or don't say that, or, you know, why don't you do this? We don't have to do any of that. We can just hang out, and shoot the shit, and talk about fighting, talk about martial arts. So this year I got to travel to Russia twice already, and I might go back before the end of the year. Seoul, South Korea. And we've been to a good dozen American cities for UFC events. And I was just in China. And I got to commentate Sanda, which is the full contact interpretation of a rule set created by Chinese martial artists. That is open and invites anybody. You want to fight, you're a Muay Thai fighter, you are a boxer or a kickboxer, but you'd like to compete in Sanda? Welcome. Just follow the rules and structures, which is exactly what we were saying about boxing. Boxing is a set of rules, a ring shape and size, ropes. It's the type of glove you have to wear and the equipment you have to wear, the how many rounds, the rules. That's boxing. And same thing in Chinese martial arts. Those things are sanda. The rules are you can kick, punch. This is how you score. This is what happens when you get pushed off of the mat. Here are the full contact scoring areas. This is what you can and can't do. The martial artistry that takes place in that is up to you. And that's the conversation we had about boxing when Conor McGregor was fighting Floyd Mayweather. Most people still don't understand what the fuck we were talking about. They really don't. They really don't. I still get people going, honestly. People who have about 4 hours of ever consuming martial arts. Bro, you know what you were saying about fucking that disruption? If you don't understand what disruption is, don't fucking blame me, man. This is my private YouTube channel. I talk about what the fuck I want here. You don't have to be here. I welcome you and I thank you for coming in, especially to talk about things so far outside the box. It tells me that you are a little bit uncomfortable with the sameness of the way that you're forced to consume martial arts. And that's what I was hoping to get to today while bringing the lessons that I learned from being immersed in Chinese martial arts. So this, I think, is water number 6 already. And when the first one we went to was actually looking and going, you think disruption is fucking gonna bother you? Well, wait till we talk about decentralization. Because disruption was literally just that, like, they can handle this small concept that if you create any structure of rules and systems, once it starts to believe it's the only way, it is ripe to be hacked. It's true of everything. Every system that has ever existed as long as time began, and every system that will ever exist as long as time continues. It will be a system of beliefs, structures, and rules that may be relevant today, but will not be relevant one day. And when they're irrelevant, and we still act as if they are relevant, somebody will come and hack them. The fact that that someone may take that approach and fail to win in no way makes that approach not a real approach. But that idea was just there because it seemed so obvious. I thought everybody could understand it. To open the idea for decentralization. And what decentralization that's happening in fighting, and this is not Robin's fucking cockamamie theory. This is something you will hear from Greg Jackson. You will hear when you talk to Firas. You will hear when you talk to every single one of these guys. Bang Ludwig is decentralizing what you believe fighting is all the time. So as it is continually being discussed to be a certain way, what happens in fighting is, what's better, boxing or sumo? Okay, well, the boxer won, I guess boxing's better. And what's better, kickboxing or jiu-jitsu? Oh, jiu-jitsu, I guess jiu-jitsu's better. And that little beginning of martial arts over time happens until people go, well, the double leg is good, but guard is no good anymore. And whenever you're on the ground, you should always have the underhook and then get up. But against the fence, and you think about how quickly these things change. Early on, we beat you up on the ground, and then we'd decide to squash you in the corner where your head was up, and you were squashed against the fence. It would beat you up. That's what we want. And then people just started to wall walk. Everybody understands that now. It's a 20-year-old concept. And then we're like, uh-oh, we got to pull him away from the fence. And those things change consistently, on and on. But over time, what happened, for a number of reasons, including the popularity of fighting, so there were more fighters, more people training, bigger gyms. We had to train in systems. We had to create systems. So against the fence, we'll always, hello, some people are saying hello, we'll always take the underhook, control the wrist or the bicep, and get this position and pressure the hip. That's what you do against the fence. On the ground, when he's on 4 points, we will take the hip and we'll put our hand inside the thigh and we will control outside here and we'll post up. Then he'll grab that. Okay, we don't post up. But over time, you make a rule book or a Bible of what is correct and incorrect in martial arts to do. Always do this, never do that. In half guard, make sure you have the underhook, always get this position, and it becomes like every other martial art. Do this and never do this. And that's how everybody trained from, and not everybody, sorry. These generalizations, I'm just as guilty as anybody else. These are where we get into trouble. Many people, the large majority of large gyms started to train a curriculum. So a curriculum, we will train striking, we do these things. Then we enter to this position. From here, we do these things. When against the fence with these takedowns, they work this way. And when we get on the ground, we do this. When you're on the bottom, you do this and do that, and that's where you have a problem. So now and I'm sorry I'm taking a long time to get this recap over the last number. Now what decentralization is doing is saying, wait a second, if everybody thinks they know exactly what to do, and then the fight is always this same battle here, or this head position battle, or we battle for the position with our leg, if there is a clearly defined skirmish that happens in every single position in fighting, and you believe that's true, then I know what you believe. I know you think you can only do this. Once everybody is taking this one position, somebody has to figure out how to beat that position. And then that's where decentralization comes in. Suddenly we start going, wait a second. The reason MMA worked so well is because it exploited the arrogant belief systems of martial arts. And arrogant is not pointed at a person. There is an arrogance that as any system or person or individual gets more and more intelligent, what they do is they start to believe they are infallible or they're correct. We'll all do it. We'll all do it at different times. Other times we'll realize we did it, and we'll realize how big a failure that was, and we'll hope we don't do it again. And so those things take place. And once they go, wait a second, karate was so arrogant to say you always have to do this. Well, we'll do it a different way, and we'll beat karate. Now, mixed martial arts became just like another martial art. Always do this, never do this, make sure you move this way. After this, always dip this way. As soon as you're always, I know what you're doing. And never mind me. Take somebody of a high caliber coach, and he'll now train his fighter to penalize you for the thing that you do that is correct a year ago. It was correct when it was planned. It was correct when it was rehearsed. It was correct when it was drilled. It was correct when it worked. This was the right answer. Always enter this way with this hand here to create a space as I block, push my guy back, and then throw the low kick. Works. It's correct. But it's not correct forever, because eventually it's like, hey, wait a second, Jose Aldo always does that. Jose Aldo always does that. Well, shit, we better prepare to beat it. Sean Tompkins was training Mark Hominick fucking whenever that stadium show was in Toronto, like, I don't know, when George fought Jake Shields. That's for sure 7 years ago, you know? Yeah. I was there with him, staying with him for a few days, and he was like, Jose Aldo and their team uses this approach, and they've won with it consistently for 7 years. Barao does it, they do it, nobody can beat it. But we understand it, and I believe we beat it this way. So they had a strategy to beat it. Didn't quite do it that night, 2010, 2011? 11. So, yeah, going on 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago now. But then the next generation tries. They say, what did Mark and Sean do? Jesus, that worked. Hey, the 1 round 5. What was the key? Okay. Then they add that to the knowledge, and then they add that, and then one day it's wrong. That's and now the decentralization happens when everybody realizes, wait a second, when fucking, you know, a guy who has a full-time job and a family and watches 8 fights a week can go on the internet and say the way to counter this is with this. We're all believing way too much shit. There's no way that, you know, we should be able to find that. It should be a special skill to be able to find the answer to whatever fighter's game. Not fucking 20 people who call themselves, you know, Robin Black, and this is the breakdown, and 7 other people and 12 other these guys, and people making videos. If we can find those answers, the system is flawed. And so decentralization came along where they're like, actually, what are all the things people believe don't work? Because let me tell you, as long as martial arts has existed, never cross your legs when you do an armbar. People do it all the time now. They alternate from cross to uncross for all kinds of purposes. When you're in a guard, do a can opener. Oh, don't do can openers. Those guys armbar you. Whenever you're here, always get an underhook. Wait a second. Maybe if you surrender the underhook, you can. It's been going on forever, and it will go on forever. It will go on forever. Fucking front kick doesn't work in MMA. Boom. Randy's teeth are gone. You know? Like, right? Like, front kick doesn't work. Spin kick, don't do a spin kick. You get taken down. Don't kick a wrestler, you'll get taken down. As long as you have consumed martial arts, people have made these insane statements only to later go, wait a second. I can't believe we ever believed, don't kick a wrestler, you'll get taken down. Mark did something there. So if there was a space there, and you're like, what the fuck was that? And say, I don't know either. If there was no space there because he did an edit, trust me, there was a space there. But that is martial arts. And so now the answer is, let's figure out all the things that we thought you couldn't do. Let's figure out how to do those things. Let's figure out all the things they say you must do and figure out how to penalize them for it. So that's the direction that fighting is going. And that's what all the fucking people who know what's going on know is happening. Every top level coach, every top level fighter, the conversations. So and I'm sure this is true of most things. When you watch football, the commentators who used to play football are talking the way that people talked who played football 12 years earlier, back when they played. And people on the internet are repeating that and so forth. And fighting, when they're in gyms, they're not talking the way we talk on Twitter and even on the fucking pre and post shows and all these analysis shows. They don't talk like that. They're so far beyond those things. So the real people, the real coaches, they've been fucking decentralizing the MMA game for the last 5 years. They have. They've been decentralizing it. There is less alwayses and nevers. And usually it's like, what do they think you always have to do? Cool, let's catch them. Fucking, you talk to TJ Dillashaw and Dwayne Ludwig, most of the game was based on they believe that TJ always does X. So if you were a good coach and you think TJ always does this after this, or always after he does this, he gives it one of these, they will, if you were a good coach and that was true, that TJ always does these things, you would find the answer. Well, I'm a good coach. Dwayne is, I'm not. Dwayne will go, that's what a good coach would do. That good coach's answer would be hit TJ with this, but TJ's not going to be where you believe he's going to be. He's going to be where will be a good place to fuck you up for that. That's the game. That's the whole game. So that's been the path of where we've been looking at with this series Water, is the realities of what's happening in there. And those realities are operating outside of the parallel universe of how television talks about fighting. The way that we present it and the way we talk about it and the way we set fights up and who you got and you know, he's a better striker, but he's a better grappler. These things don't exist in the minds and the verbiage of coaches and fighters in reality. They're operating in a different way. And so that's what we're trying to study and find, right? And that's, so then I go to China. So those things are there. Why do I give a fuck about any of this? Like, it would be, I could at any time, and maybe one day I will. Maybe I'll just fucking throw it up in the air and just say, fuck it. Give me a job to sit at the desk, and it'll come to me and they'll say, who you got? And I'll say, Cub Swanson's a more dynamic striker, and I think if he can keep it on the feet, he'll get it done. Cub Swanson, round 2, by finish, head kick. Maybe I'll just do that. I'll be lying. I don't know if Cub Swanson's going to win. But maybe I'll just do it because I'll just give up. It's too hard. It's too hard. There's a whole world that is created through television and radio and the internet and created only these two parallel lines of thinking. Only that. That's it. That's what you can talk about. You know, talk about the striking, grappling, and wrestling, and then, you know, their record, and then say MMA math doesn't work, and then say styles make fights, and say, well, it's a stylistic matchup, and then say who I got. Well, I got Cub Swanson, and then do that. Maybe I'll just do it. I'll just give up. I'll say, fuck it, I can't handle it anymore. Because to do anything else, why is that the way it is? Because when you create a structure in which it's always that way, it becomes always that way. And then to try it a different way, it's so deeply ingrained, you get an enormous amount of pushback. You get an enormous amount of resistance. The easiest way to answer it is to find a new interface. You don't get that resistance on Instagram because people think new there. There's a new line of thinking. You don't get it on Periscope, actually, either very much, because Periscope is a very selective group. They wouldn't fucking waste their time unless they wanted somebody to look in a different way. They're actually tired of it being the same way, so they want to look. So all of those things tend to be a part of my personal journey here on my personal YouTube page to figure out the answer to that. And whether you're looking at Bruce Lee's teachings, there are plateaus. There are no limits. There are only plateaus. but you must find the way through those plateaus. And the plateau of our, what's my purpose is to make people view and love fighting as much as I love it. And what's our barrier right now? Is we're only allowed to, or we've created a ritual world in which we say exactly the same thing. We show the thing, and then we go to the one thing, and then we talk about, the main event matchup in these 5 ways, and then we go to the co-main in these 5 ways, and that's it. And I think that's where the plateau now is. It's structural itself. 6 years ago, when I started being heavily, watching fights in slow motion and picking apart just the technical, then I thought the plateau was that nobody cared about the technical. And they didn't. Every single fight would end. The discussion and debate would be what the next fight would be. And then the next thing would be, what does it mean for the division? And then they'd have conversations about the other guys and what the next fight would be. And I thought, well, that's not enriching our love of fighting. So myself and others like me pushed towards technical for a long time. Now I find that that's a new plateau because we just asked a bunch of questions and then broke it up into smaller details. And that's what happened to baseball. Baseball is looked at the way it's looked at because the time it was examined, the time it was deeply examined, they were really into stats, right? And the audience was into stats, and television was into stats. So it was like, what's his batting percentage? What's a hit percentage? What's the chances of this? How many at-bats? And everything was math. And baseball has not changed since that point. It seems that's what, if you just put the consumption of baseball on, it's nothing but math. Now, fighting has become nothing but this same ritualistic structure. We will talk about the main event in these 5 ways, and that one, then we'll look at the rankings, and then we'll make a pick. It can't continue like that, or else people will slowly like fighting less. Because we've seen this at the same time. Besides, these guys are only right 55% of the time on their picks. Of course they are. Nobody knows who's going to win ever. Or else we wouldn't have to have a fight and everybody would be a gazillionaire. You just bet on the winner. So this is our plateau. Our plateau to deeper understanding is language. It's the limitations of language, and it's the limitations of television, word bites, Twitter, and ritual. So that's been something that every time I'm looking at it, we're finding different ways. How else can we explore this? Is there something else? Do we talk about their humanity? Do we talk about their mind? Do we talk about the mental and physical challenges? Do we talk about what it means not to block a kick, but how hard it is when your leg is sore? All of those things, sure, we can. But I started to realize there's something else. So what else is... Where else is these plateaus for how we can understand in big ways, make big jumps in understanding, the way we made with technique 4 or 5 years ago. And you look and you see that we live in a world where everybody kind of gets a trophy. Like when, that's a complaint everybody has about kids. It's like everybody gets a trophy, right? So, why is that? Why does everybody get a trophy? And to bring it down a step further, why is there an interim belt for everything? There's no interim heavyweight belt, but there's been almost, and there probably has been one.
Heavyweights were had the most interim belts.
Yeah. We had Verdum, and we had Kane and Arlovsky. There's been, and then flyweight hasn't had one, to my knowledge. Yeah. I don't know if we've had 2 interim belts for the same one, but that's common. Why is that? Why does everyone get a belt? Why is there interim belts for everything? Now, the short answer for why there's interim belts for everything is, well, that's because we need to sell. We can't sell pay-per-views, or we can't sell events without that. That's true, but that's like is mostly the case in most of these things. A simple another why is important, and another why, and another why. So why are there multiple interim belts? Because you can't sell an event without a belt. Okay, great, thanks. Why? Why can't we sell an event without a belt? Why can we not sell an event without a belt?
We used to be able to.
Yeah, we used to be able to. Why can't we? Why? Same reason as everybody gets a trophy. Because the only fucking thing that matters is winning. The only thing that matters is who's the winner. The only thing that matters is who's the champ. Who's the greatest of all time? Is this guy the greatest of all time? Would you say that GSP is the greatest of all time? How many wins does he have? Did he win? Who did he beat? Well, oh God, Michael Bisping against Luke Rockhold. He lost to him. It's all we fucking concern ourselves with. And the UFC, they're not trying to make it harder. They're trying to make it easier or better or funner or you happier. And maybe sometimes you don't think that's true, but of course it's true. They want you to be a consumer of their product. They want you to love it. They want you to fucking subscribe to everything. They want you to love every fight. They want you to buy every pay-per-view, buy every t-shirt, right? Of course they do. It's like, why is the UFC trying to fuck us? The UFC is not. Apple or fucking, this is a McDonald's coffee, by the way. This is not bad. They basically bought Tim Hortons coffee. They bought the company that gave Tim Hortons coffee. McDonald's wants me to like that coffee. If I don't like it and I sip it, I'm like, why the fuck does McDonald's want me to hate this coffee? It's not true. They want me to love it. They want to sell it to me. Apple wants me to buy this fucking phone. I might not like, why does Apple want me to hate this? Apple wants me to love this phone. Why is Dana trying to fuck us? Dana's not trying to fuck you. Their goal is to make you fucking happy because you are their consumer, right? There's no logical argument outside of that. There's really, Dana gets, he says rude shit. Sure. He's a human being. Human beings get mad sometimes and they act crazy. I did it the other day. I yelled at my neighbor. He's all right. But he was fucking with my dog. Because people are like that. You're not defined by the worst thing you do or the best thing you do. You're a person, right? So the UFC wants you to fucking love their product. So they are not doing this to fuck you, but incorrectly in their desire to control the message. Why do they want to control the message? Because they want you to love it. But you don't always get what you want. So what part of the message do they control? I haven't worked in nobody's told me this ever in my work with them. I've commentated stuff on Fight Pass. I've done countless breakdowns for them. I did a thing on ESPN for Dana during Connor. I've done lots of work for them. No one's ever told me this, but I've heard it. And it's not coming down from the top. It's just part of the corporate culture. Let's not focus on the losses. Okay? That makes sense. It's not done to fuck you. It's done to make you happy. Because a company wants you to be happy. Because they want you to buy their t-shirts and shit. This is their computers and fucking... Yeah, they want you to be excited about the fights. So, yeah.
It's the same reason why they have the interim belt, to give it stakes.
So, exactly. So now we have why do we have this interim belt? They want you to be excited. Why do you need a belt to be excited? Well, they have some blame in that too. Don't talk about the losses. Nobody was trying to fuck anybody. They believed it was the right thing. Focus on the wins. Focus on the victories. Focus on how great this guy is. Help show their great moments. That makes sense. It made fucking sense. But the thing when you control the message, what people didn't realize in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, some definitely did. Some politicians and some companies that sell you a lot of shit, they understood. But when you control the message, you control thought. You control thought. So if we don't see all the things that we could possibly think about, or even ideas or open types of discussion, we get what we get. And if we don't talk about losses and we only talk about wins and then we only talk about knockouts and then we only talk about exciting knockouts and then we only talk about, eventually you're going on websites, and I don't go on any of them anymore. I'm a much happier person, and it's nothing against MMA websites. It's news. It's something against news. I don't go on CNN. I don't go on Fox. I don't go on CNBC. And anyone I know that doesn't is happier than anyone that I know that does. That's true. It's true. And it's the same thing. News itself is shaped that way. And I did not do this, but if I opened any one of them, Mark, tell me if this is so, you're on some of them occasionally. If I opened any one of them, and I'm in no order, you know, Sherdog or Junkie or Bloody Elbow, any of them. They're all good people trying to do good things. One of the very early things that would have been commented is that it wasn't a very exciting fight, or it would have been backhanded that there weren't a lot of finishes. You know, it's probably true, right? Now, winning matters. Who wins the title? Who's number one? How exciting it is. Getting a finish. Those things are important. But what else is important? How did they grow? What did they learn? How creative are they? Why are they the way that they are? What does it feel like? What are they afraid of? Who are they? What were they capable of doing? How did they overcome this? What happened? What was the story of their journey through the pain and the fear and the danger and the injury of the fight? How much better are they than their last fight? That last fight, when they lost, they had a collapse. How did they undo that collapse? They were on a 3-fight losing streak, but now in those times they had to take a step back to get better, to now be a champion. All of those things revolve around loss and failure and setback and journey and knowledge and experience and growth. Because ultimately the martial arts is a metaphor for growth. That's what you're watching. People face challenges, get better, identify the challenge, figure out how to train it, fail at it, get a setback, experience sadness, but try it again. You know, these last couple of shows I've been at, and I'm asking them real life questions. I don't want fucking Rose to cry when I ask her a question, but I'm asking her shit about real life because I give a fuck about it. Fucking Cody, the same thing. And I don't want them to be emotional. But these are real human questions. And if they seem, you know, to be moved in some way by questions, and that's fucking rare, why is it rare? If you're just going to say, Calvin, do you think if you beat Michael Bisping, you get a title shot? We're doing the same thing. Title shot matters. Interim belt matters. Winning matters. You know, exciting, like, you know, belts, and everyone gets a trophy because that's all that matters here. That's what we've done. That's what we've created. The only thing that matters is who's the champ, who's the best. And then after people win, are they the greatest of all time? Somebody loses. They need to retire. It's like, if you could, I don't even go on Twitter now, like, because, you know, if Verdum lost, how many people that don't know anything about fighting, and you know, when he needs to retire, and I know what some people are saying, what we're teaching people is to be scared to try. We're fucking teaching people in our culture to be frightened to try anything because you might fail. If it only matters who wins, what do we got? 25, 35, 45, 55, 70, 85, 205 heavyweight. There's 8 and there's 3 women's now. Is there 20? There's 45. So yeah. So we got 11 belts. So there's only 11 fucking people that matter out of 450, and the rest don't fucking matter. Okay, well, what if we have interim belts? Okay, now we got 22 that matter. Now we got 22 that matter, right? 22 fucking people that matter. So if that's not enough pretty soon, maybe we need another interim belt, or we need like the TV championship or something. Then we'll have 33. But they all fucking matter. And their losses matter. And this takes me back to China. And I think we put China in the headline of this episode of Water. But I went to the World Kungfu Championships. And so when I commentated Sanda in Russia, it was just fights. 3 2-minute rounds of fighting. Punching and kicking to the legs, body, and head. Scoring was different. Leg kicks didn't score, but you could kick at the leg hard as much as you want. People scored when they pushed each other from the fighting surface. And no punches and no knees. So it changed the dynamic of the fighting. I talked about it in another Water, and I will definitely explore it some more, because when you remove one thing, Muslim Salikov fighting in China this weekend, king of Sanda, or king of Kung Fu, he later took because it's a little easier to digest. Kung Fu actually, incidentally, isn't the martial art. Wushu means martial arts in Chinese, and Kung Fu means anything that you dedicate yourself to or work hard at. Really, slang would just be Kung Fu, hard work. You know, we've got good Kung Fu here at Budo, Canada. You know, are you a good chef, and when it gets busy, you're frenzied, you got good Kung Fu. But eventually they were just like, I'll just call it this. What it is traditional wushu. And what they do is they show traditional patterns and physical exhibitions. And they had, I mean, I would do 3 days, I was doing 150 plus performances. Person comes up, they do their performance, and in the morning, and then lunch, and then 150 to 200 in the evening. We did 900. All kinds of weapons, all kinds of tradition, new and old, you know, northern and southern, external and internal, all of these things. And I will pass on different things that I've learned from that. I'm thinking about one topic today, but there's a lot there. There's just fucking no way that somebody can take thousands of years of an entire world of martial arts and dismiss it as useless. That's insanity. That's, again, we live in Canada or the United States or England in this Western view that some of us take, not all. I'll tell you, my friends in Ireland and Australia, they don't always think that way either. And neither does England as a whole, and neither do we, any of us as a whole, but it's a Western way of thinking. And I know Australia is not on this side. But a lot of us have just dismissed it. No, it doesn't work. Tony Ferguson knows it does. Tony Ferguson plays with Wing Chun and all types of northern fist and long fist style stuff. Trust me. We'll get into that another day. But what I did gather from this, so hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of performances, is as we would start to talk about the performance, it was stressed to us that yes, this is a World Championships, but it is also a festival of martial arts. So people are surrounded by other martial artists that are practicing Kung Fu all over the fucking city, and sometimes in groups of dozens of them. And as they performed, over time, we barely talked about who won and lost. And intuitively, you think that's weaker, but it's fucking stronger like you wouldn't believe. Because not talking about who won and lost doesn't make you not driven to win. It makes you driven to win and learn in different ways and grow in different ways and experiencing something in different ways. Winning at all costs is a side effect of Western capitalism that we all created. It's not something we blame on the governments. This is the world we and our people created. But winning at all costs now is about only celebrating the winners and only celebrating the belts and only celebrating the knockout and only celebrating the losses and the challenges and the growth, and looking at Tony Ferguson and seeing how he has changed in this time, and looking at Gunnar Nelson and exploring why he lost to Damian Maia and what changed in his thinking and why it wasn't enough, and how he studied himself when Ponzinibbio beat him and he took some eye pokes, and how he pointed to his own failures, and what happened when Holly Holm got punched after the bell, and what that really means in the spirit of all of these things are real. And as soon as we removed, so we would commentate 20 performances and they would have scores, and I wouldn't even fucking write them down, because at the end of the whole session I wasn't even going to talk about the winner. At times when it was obvious, well, the Russian, has moved into first place. There's still 8 left. At the end, I'm not going to be like, and the Russian stays in first place, because there's 20 fucking brilliant performances happening. And if you think it's weaker, if you think it is somehow less drive or it gives less payoff to not concentrate on the winner and the loser obsessively the way that we do, you're wrong. Because when you do it this way, the inevitable result is everyone gets a trophy. My fucking 7-year-old, I don't have a 7-year-old, I'm just, just riffing if I was an adult. I'm kind of an adult. If my 7-year-old, winning and losing is all that matters. Eventually, can't we have more winners? We need some interim winners, We're going to give out gold medals here at the, what do they call that day where everybody competes in track? Track meet. Okay, we're going to give out gold, silver, and bronze. Well, there's 30 kids. Can't we give them a participation thing? Sure, we can give them, why not? Give them a ribbon. Okay, well, can we give like a purple ribbon for the ones in the top half and then a gold one for the ones in the second half and say, good for you? That's the result of winning. That's the weakening of it, of obsessing about the winner. Keeping that as something that you're driven to do, but allowing exploration and study of the growth that it takes to get there is better. It gets you further, and it lets us see so much more. When we watch a fight, which is another reason why I'm so opposed. I'm not opposed, that's the wrong word. I'm not opposed to anybody hanging out with their friends and saying, who you got? T-City or Cub Swanson. If that gives you pleasure, do it. But just understand that if you do that, you and a bunch of friends sit around and say, who you got? Bellator heavyweight tournament. And you all pick people. You've shut down your exploration of many other things because now you're looking for ways to prove yourself right or to reinforce your belief. And that is why there's, two halves that think each other's crazy where most of us live now. We think the other side's crazy and they think we're fucking insane. They can't both be right. Or maybe they are both right. Maybe by obsessing over finding ways to reinforce what you believe, you can easily believe two things that coexist. So it's also why to turn the fucking news off. And that goes for MMA news as well. Because there's so much beauty in these fights. There's so much incredible things to be learned. There's so much to learn about life. There's so much to learn about overcoming challenge and to overcoming setback and improving and growing and seeing yourself in a way that if Michael Bisping could be the champion, maybe my son could be great at something too. If we study the process, not, well, Bisping lost to GSP, so therefore GSP is the greatest and Bisping sucks. No. But if we obsess over only the victory or only the result, we miss the process. And process is everything. Process is fucking everything. Everything. It's fucking everything. Like, if you look at who wins and who loses and who's fucking... whose company gets picked up on Shark Tank and whose didn't. And you won't learn any of the things they did to put themselves in that position. Now let me leave you with this one thought. I have a friend named Graham, and he's a great writer, and he and I are writing my one-man show together, a lot of which is exploring the process of trying to do things. And Graham's doing an article for Vice magazine. And in that article, he said, I want abs. And Graham was like soft, just a regular guy. And I don't know what the percentage of 28 or 29-year-olds or that would be where he'd be, but he was average. Like he had a belly and no real sort of muscle tone or anything. And he worked out a bit over the last few years, but was very overweight before that. And just was a regular guy with a belly. And he's decided to write an article. 90 days, he wants abs. And he's about 80 days in. Now, he has lost probably 26 or 28 pounds. He sleeps better. He's learned so fucking much. He's learned what he's kind of capable of. He's also learned that him doing 1.5 to 2 workouts a day and dieting pretty good is still nowhere near what the lowest level professional athlete and he's not a big sports fan, he's a music and arts guy, but that the lowest level athlete would do. And he realizes when he sees people now in magazines, they don't get to have fucking tacos with their friends, and he still doesn't have abs. So he's got this before picture and his belly is sticking out and he's pouring Doritos in his mouth. And his after picture may have abs, but I think might be even 20 days out. He may not quite have them. And I swear to fucking God, when they put that picture in Vice magazine, if that guy doesn't have abs, there will be a picture of him with a belly and Doritos all over him and him 30 plus pounds lighter. And it'll be like just an inkling of abs. And they don't have, I don't know if you know this, they don't have comments anymore on Vice. They don't have, they fucking got rid of that shit because that's poison. But if they did, or wherever you'd put it, the first 10 people would be like, look at this fucking loser who doesn't even have abs. To lose 30 pounds, so let's say I want to have abs in 90 days, and in 90 days, All I accomplished was lost 30 pounds, slept better, felt healthier, probably had better fucking sex because I was in better shape. I accomplished more. My brain was clearer. I never felt so healthy. I had a better attitude and I was happier and I had an open mind and I learned new things and I met new people and I never quite got abs. That is not a fucking failure. That is not a failure. And nowhere else in the world would they think that's a failure. And in the Chinese martial arts, they would, and the way that we were looking at it, they would celebrate the greatness. And he doesn't need a fucking badge for it. And he doesn't need a ribbon for it. He doesn't need like, look, most improved fucking something. You just need to recognize that's how you change your life for the better. And that is being stopped by us looking at it. And if George St. Pierre lost to Mike, saying, see, George is a fucking loser. He was never that good in the first place. We are obsessed with the result. See, Conor lost to fucking Floyd Mayweather. He sucks. Are you out of your fucking mind? You know, Aaron Pico got finished in the first minute or minute and a half of his first fight. Everyone goes, that guy's a fucking loser. See, hype train derailed. Also, we all say the same things. Google hype train derailed Aaron Pico. You'll have 9 million responses because people can't think for themselves. It's not their fault. This is the programming we've been given. We must watch this way. We ritualistically watch the same things over and over again, and it forces us to think and talk the same way. Aaron Pico, hype train derailed. Aaron Pico, hype train derailed. Millions of fucking times. And 7 weeks later, he goes in and lands this cool left hook. Aaron Pico, awesome, highlight of the year, knockout artist. I knew it. Future champ, I fucking knew it. Aaron Pico's exactly the same guy. I'm not saying neither one of those outcomes mattered. They did matter, but they didn't tell this. You know what story they told? They told the story of those minutes. Nothing else. Not a fucking thing else. Not a thing else. He doesn't need to retire. He's not a hype train derailed. There's no such thing as a hype train. And you can't derail something that isn't an actual train. You know, it's not a real train. Actually, maybe there is one somewhere. Maybe there's a train going somewhere and it says hype on the side. I don't know. But all that mattered was those minutes. That's what happened that night. It has nothing to do with how good he is or isn't. And what I'm hoping with all this is that fucking 2 out of 10 of you look at it and somewhere it changes your perspective in ways that will help you. Not because I don't want you to fucking watch fights a certain way. I want you to look and go, wait a second. What did it, like, those was minutes. What about the months and years of his life? That's the important shit. That's the shit you can look at and go, hey, what if I dedicated 20 years to my life on something? What if I put, 18 hours a week on something? What if I didn't go out on my friend's birthday and instead stayed home and studied? Like, whatever it is. What if I dedicated 10 years to trying to be great at something? That's what matters, not hype train derailed. Fuck it, we shouldn't do anything. Anyways, we shouldn't try to take risks, or we shouldn't go and look, see, it's a loser. George fucking came back after 4 years. If he lost, some people would take that as proof that they shouldn't try. Don't do that. And it's getting harder and harder, especially for fucking 12 or 14-year-olds right now, to grow up in a world where 99 out of 100 people will fail. One is the champion. We think he's the greatest. The other 99 are losers. We shouldn't try because we'll probably never make it. It's scary. That shit's bullshit. Anyways, I learned a lot from China. It's impossible to commentate 900 things in 3 days and be so deeply immersed in an entirely different way of thinking and have it not change you. And how it's going to change me and where I'll just sort of fold it into my day-to-day life in ways it's subtle, more subtle changes than when it's hot. You read a great book or you see a great movie and it's hot in your brain. You know, you got all these. Later, it just becomes a little bit a part of you. So that'll happen eventually. But we're back in their groove now. We're probably going to shoot here for a bit. We might even stay here. We don't know. It'll be fun to find out. But definitely, if you're watching this now, if there isn't already a few new things up, there's going to be 3 or 4 more in the next 3 or 4 days. And then we're definitely going to Winnipeg, and we're going to get a ton. I'm doing my live show in Winnipeg. We'll get a ton of interviews there, and we're trying to go to Detroit too. So we'll be back soon. Thank you so much for humoring me with my crazy thoughts. Blackout.